Ever since I can remember, holidays have always been accompanied by orange rolls. Birthdays, Easter, Christmas, and of course, Thanksgiving would not be the same without a sticky bun in hand. Not handmade, but the ones that come in the Pillsbury packages that you have to pry open carefully so you don't rip the dough. The ones that you have to dig your fingers under the barely there seams so you can get exactly 8 rolls onto the tray. Oh, and the icing. When my sister and I were children, we used to make a game of how much of it we could sneak from the container with cunning, sticky little fingers. As if I were a child again, I wait in front of the oven and watch my breakfast rise. The warm scents of cinnamon and baking dough dance in my nose. Even though it's been years since I've stolen icing from the tube, the temptation still persists. The only thing keeping me at bay is how much better it'll taste on the rolls. But I haven't too long to dally, as I'm on a bit of a time crunch. The Macy's Thanksgiving Day Parade starts soon, and by then, me and my breakfast need to be parked in front of the TV. I'll admit that the big balloons and floats have lost a bit of their wonder in adulthood, but none of their nostalgia. The performance groups and marching bands will never get old. I'll always wait with bated breath for them to appear on screen. And yes, a little childlike. But has the holiday season really started until Santa Claus closes the parade? Happy Thanksgiving, my lovelies. For those of you that celebrate, I hope you get to chow down on all your favorites tonight, surrounded by those you love. As you've probably seen, it's just me and the fur babies today. That's because the majority of my family lives up north in Canada and they don't have today, Thursday, off. So we'll be actually gathering together on Saturday to celebrate. So for today, I'll just be enjoying the company of Bianca and Zara, doing some relaxing, chill things like coloring before the busyness of the next 2 days, and of course, trying to finish all my baking I need to have done for Saturday. I'll be making molasses cookies and chocolate mousse made from Cherry's chocolate oranges. I'll link the recipes in the description. I thought that as I go about my day today, I can share with you all some American Thanksgiving history that's lesser known than the story of the Mayflower. This is a story of Sarah Josepha Hale and how she helped Thanksgiving become a national holiday. I imagine it was a cold, bright day when Sarah came into the world on October 24th, 1778. New England's famous fall colors were probably on display to welcome her into her New Hampshire home. Sarah grew up a little differently than most girls in her time. Her parents fiercely believed that girls' education should be extended beyond housekeeping. They would ensure that both their daughters, Sarah included, were just as well taught as their sons. Sarah's mother, Martha, saw to her daughter's education in her younger years, and later, Sarah's learning was overseen by her older brother Horatio, who attended Dartmouth and made sure everything he learned at the college was passed down from himself to his sister. Not surprisingly, Sarah's first job was teaching, and on the side, she also helped out at her father's tavern, the Rising Sun. It was at said tavern that she met her future husband, lawyer David Hale. It's so easy to imagine the two of them falling in love in my head. Sitting together at a wooden table in a corner, away from the ruckus that engulfs the rest of the establishment. Sarah's head is bent over a lesson plan while David reviews the speech he'll make in court the next day, a candle flickering between them. Every once in a while, one of them will sneak a glance at the other, a shy, giddy smile quickly hidden behind pursed lips. 2 years after the couple met, they swore to love and cherish each other for the rest of their lives. The Rising Sun was their wedding venue. They would have 5 beautiful children together, David, Horatio, Francis, Sarah, and William. Sarah and David's marital bliss would tragically be cut short. Just 9 years after their wedding, pneumonia came for David. Like so many others in that age, once the illness had its claws in David, there was no escape. He died in 1822. Sarah was heartbroken. Her devotion and love for David never wavered even after he passed. She would never marry again and would shroud herself in black until the day she too passed from this world. Now a widow and solely responsible for the upbringing of 5 children, Sarah needed to find a new way of providing for her family. While she could return to the classroom, there was the question of who would look after her younger children while she was away. Like so many of us desire today, Sarah was in need of an occupation she could perform from home. And so, she made a bet on her skills as a writer. Sarah's first work was a poetry collection titled The Genius of Oblivion. It's the last poem in the book, titled The Rose, that Sarah expresses her undying grief for David. Quote, "How sweet is a soft opening day, when nature is smiling through tears, and blushing her charms to display. The first rose of summer appears, but to me all its beauties are lost. I heed not how fragrant or fair, since mouldering in darkness and dust is the hand that planted it there. Ah, little I deemed at that hour, when hope was like spring in its glow, and ever the shrub bloomed in my bower, my heart must be withered by woe. Now spring with gay summer may dance, and their chapel of roses and wine. 'Tis winter to me, for no glance of feeling will brighten with mine. How ample is Flora's fair page, arrayed by the skills of the Swede. 'Tis the wisdom of youth or of age, this volume of nature to read. When my husband with a door approved, all rich did its beauties appear. I thought that the study I loved, 'twas his accents I listened to hear. My books now neglected may lie, or opened I gaze but to weep, for mute is his voice, and his eye forever is shrouded in sleep. O death, why so stern in thy sway, so eager frail mortals to call? Like the rose, they may flourish today, and the morrow must witness their fall. They fall, are forgotten, the earth doth their name and their ashes receive. But my husband, thy memory and worth, embalmed in my bosom shall live, nor death can the union destroy. That's linked with the life of the mind, we shall meet in those mansions of joy, where love is divinely refined. And soon will the moment arrive, for time never ceases his flight. Yet who for existence would strive, if life were but winter and night? And it never can be morning to me, nor will spring its warm radiance shed, while the spot at each turning I see, where he sleeps in his cold, narrow bed. June 14th, 1823, unquote. Sarah followed up The Genius of Oblivion 4 years later with her first novel, Northwood, Life North and South. The novel was so successful that it got Sarah a job as an editor for Ladies Magazine, which was accompanied and followed up by a 40-year stint as the editor of the Godly Ladies book. Throughout her career as an editor, Sarah continued to pen her own stories and poems, including the iconic childhood favorite, Mary Had a Little Lamb. Like her parents before her, Sarah was a staunch advocate for women's education. She played a large part in the creation of Philadelphia's first medical college for women and co-founded another women's college in New York taught by an all-female staff. Sarah insisted that women should not have to face the indignity of being forced to submit their written works under a male pseudonym to ensure a fair shot or even not to invoke the ire of their husbands. Under Sarah's tutorage, many women began publishing under their own names. Sarah was also just as staunch an abolitionist as she was an advocate for female education. One common place to find her was sitting at a crafts booth,
hawking wares to those who passed by, all proceeds going to help newly freed slaves start out on the right foot. A proud American nationalist, Sarah also played a role in seeing to the completion of the Bunker Hill Memorial and preserving George Washington's home, Mount Vernon. Without her fundraising and organization efforts, both historical sites might not still stand today. For all her shining achievements, it would be amiss not to inform you of where us modern folks looking back through time with our current morals would say that Sarah stumbled. The most contradictory example being her opposition to women's suffrage. Sarah believed firmly that politics and all that came with it, including voting, was the domain of men only. In her mind, politics and strong, uncorruptible morals were incompatible. A view I do have a hard time arguing against. Sarah wished for the petty, backstabbing-filled halls of legislation to remain firmly in the male sphere. She thought instead it was a woman's job to lead the men in her life to make the right choice on election day by being gentle, glimmering examples of correct morals. A view I will absolutely argue against. Sarah's opposition to women's suffrage is completely bewildering. She advocated for women on all other fronts. She fought for their right to an equal education, for their right to work in business and industry, and to have their own bank accounts that their husbands couldn't interfere with. She even went against her own advice by stepping into politics herself in Massachusetts. Sarah successfully pressured several senators to bring a vote to create rent control for single women living in small apartments. The measure failed, but it's still a tremendous achievement that Sarah's meddling got that far. And for all her advocacy for freeing slaves, Sarah seemed not to want for them to stay in the United States once out of bondage. She wished for them to be repatriated to Africa, particularly Liberia, where they could restyle the continent in the quote-unquote respectable American image. And perhaps also, the sources disagree, create an American colony. For all her faults, it was absolutely undeniable that Sarah loved her country. The Civil War tore her heart in two. On one hand, slavery was absolutely abominable, but on the other, the enemy was fellow Americans. The war pit brother against brother, father against son. It tore at the very soul of the nation. Sarah badly wanted to help heal the rift, a rift that troubled her long before war even broke out. Her answer, a little-known New England holiday. In Sarah's day, Thanksgiving was celebrated only in the old colonies. Those who remembered the story of the feast shared between the Wampanoag Confederacy and the Plymouth colonists. There was not even a set date, the day changing depending on the state and ranging from October to January. In Thanksgiving, Sarah saw one day where it might be possible for the nation to put aside their grievances with each other, for the people of America to break bread with one another, remind themselves that there was more that bonded them together than tore them apart, and most importantly, to recognize and give thanks for what they did have in their lives. Sarah would spend 17 long years of her life advocating for Thanksgiving becoming a national holiday. A tall task, considering that at the time, the United States only recognized two holidays, Independence Day and George Washington's birthday. She would spend years preaching the good of the holiday in her widely read magazines and writing letters to numerous presidents. 4 presidents would come into office and ignore Sarah's call. It was the 5th, Abraham Lincoln, who would finally listen. The year was 1863, and the nation had just suffered the Battle of Gettysburg. The battle took 50,000 lives, far and away the bloodiest battle of the Civil War. The decisive victory for the Union also made it clear the tides of the war were turning, and it would be over soon. Lincoln was now faced with the enormous task of somehow finding a way to begin the healing process for his war-ravaged country. To him, Sarah's call to turn Thanksgiving into a national holiday seemed like a good first step. Lincoln declared that the last Thursday of November, and every last Thursday of November thereafter, would be a national day of Thanksgiving. Because of Sarah's tireless campaigning, we now have the holiday we celebrate today. Without her, Thanksgiving could have easily slipped into obscurity. So, as you sit down to feast tonight, remember to be thankful to Sarah Josepha Hale. All the sources I used to tell Sarah's story will be cited in the description.
Good morning, my lovelies. It's now Friday morning, and as I'm sure you all saw, my mousse failed yesterday. I think the cream split because I added the chocolate in when it was still too hot. And to think I was worried about the chocolate cooling too quickly. No worries though, I will make another attempt at it later at my dad's today. I'm heading over early so we can go pick out a Christmas tree today. Another beloved tradition of my family is that every Thanksgiving, between dinner and dessert, we all, as a whole extended family, decorate the Christmas tree together. It's a little insane, a little crazy, and there tends to be a lot of different opinions flying around, but I still wouldn't have it any other way. We'll be heading to a farm to cut a tree I've been going to my entire life, literally. I'm a September baby, and I think the first time I ever went to Stony Ridge Farms, I must have been a month and a half old to get pumpkins. Other than my birthday, going to Stony Ridge Farms is probably the first tradition I ever took part in. I missed pumpkin season this year, so I am so excited this is where we're going to get our tree. And duh, I'll be taking you all along with us. Let's go. So, Christmas tree successfully acquired. We didn't end up just getting one here for my dad's place, but also another one for me for my first year alone that my dad will be bringing over in his truck sometime next week. And it's the smallest tree I've ever had, and I still love it so much. But right now, we're on to Mousse, take 2, and I will not fail this time, especially considering I forgot the cookies at home and I'm not driving another hour back home to go get them. So this has to work.